Yeah, I need a whole bunch of space. And I have a hat as well.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Maxx gentlemen. I love the hat there. So I come from a long list of gentlemen. The legacy is long, and we occasionally email you about budget Viagra. It often goes straight to your spam folder. When I saw the thing tonight, I thought, you know what, this is kind of going to be an easy one for me because, you know, my life is a no from me. Most of my life. But when I kind of boiled it down, I was thinking more specifically about how the future is kind of a no for me. This current future that we're in, the multiverse, this specific one that we're in, is kind of shit, right? And, you know, I was kind of an 80s and 90s baby, you know, I grew up with the seminal 90s documentary Back to the Future 2. They taught me that I should have a hoverboard by now. But I don't have a hoverboard, and if anyone hasn't seen that movie, then I do suggest you Google, because none of this is going to make sense otherwise. And the thing is, the technology existed. So hovercrafts were kind of a thing, you know, people were driving to work with their hovercrafts and crossing some water, getting to work, you know, hovercrafts are like those cars that also go on water. Yeah. Okay. And all they needed to do was just scale that shit down. That's all they needed to do. But I kind of feel like this is what happened. Like, Greg and Janet were in the office on a Friday, and Greg's like, oh, Janet, so I need to leave by 4 today, like I got a hot day, and I really need to douche, and like the corn takes ages to get out. So can we just not do that today? How about we reinvent the roller skate? We'll just put like all the wheels in a line. Fun fact though, the rollerblade is the only piece of sporting equipment that requires you to wear genital revealing clothing and adds you to a sex offender registry on proof of purchase. Speaking of crimes of fashion though, and you know, not this obviously, I just came straight from work. Crimes of fashion. What we should have in the future is Blade Runner and Fifth Element had kind of told us that we would have like structural, angular, beautiful, like vinyl, spray and wipeable clothing, really amazing. And what we actually have is Balenciaga selling us £700 shoes that look like a prolapsed anus. I went to Selfridges not long ago actually, and just kind of out of curiosity went to the shoe section and like touched the shoe and so I was just running up and was like, amazing, aren't they? And I was like, actually, I kind of find them really ugly. Like they look like they look like they're about to burst. Like they're kind of gross. She's like, no, they look so good on you. I was like, well, I'm like a part-time primary school teacher. Like, oh my wage, I can barely afford the pink songs. Same. And she persisted, and she was really good. And she was kind of like, well, think of it like an investment. You know, don't you love yourself? And she was really good. She put the gift receipt in the box, and I can return them anytime I like. Balenciaga haven't only given us the ugly shoe, though. They've also given us the all-purpose tracksuit pants. You know, weddings, funerals, exorcisms, whatever you want to wear these tracksuits for. And I took my husband and my daughter to Barcelona. When I say I took them, they took me. And so we decided just out of, you know, pure trolling, I suppose, because I've got an in for Balenciaga, it seems. We booked in to go and see the store, you know, because you've got to like book in for a time, because fancy fashion works like that. They don't like queues anymore. And we went up and the concierge opened the door and let us in and took us to the sales assistant. And I'm not going to do a Spanish accent tonight because like this is my second gig and I really just don't want to be cancelled just yet. So we went in there and the sales assistant took us to like the cheapest you could buy. I was like, well, here is our tracksuit. This is €800. This is more for like Netflix and masturbation. And then took us over to the other side. Was like, well, this is like more like your Met Gala kind of black tie tracksuit, €180,000. Music is one of the other things that I think has been really missold by science fiction films of the 80s and 90s. Like, this is the bit where I kind of like just feel super exacerbated, and I don't really know what to do with all of my rage and anger at this point, but like, why do we still have Eurovision? Why do we, see, like, coming from Australia, like, growing up, you know, we went through the 90s and like grunge was amazing and we had like ironic humour and that was brilliant because the shit things were good and the good things were shit. But then we hit Y2K, like the millennium, and that was like a reset of all of that stuff. It was like, now we're done with that comedy now. But then I get to the UK and you're still doing it. Like, why? And I asked my friends, I'm like, why are you still into this stuff? And they're like, but it's so good, it's bad. I'm like, no, it's so bad, it's bad. The fantasy soundtrack that I believe we should have is more like, not the guys, they're called Survive, they're the guys that did like the soundtrack to Stranger Things. Yeah. If they like collaborated with Philip Glass, but went to like a 3-day ketamine-fueled gay sex party, and so that's my fantasy soundtrack. But we don't have it, unfortunately. Yeah, I feel like the future was kind of doing this. It was like, you know, these amazing movies were laying out this path for us. You know, we had this kind of incredible trajectory. And then, you know, and I don't want to blame the younger generation, but I probably will. They're like, no, that just seems like a lot of hard work. Like, nah, we're not going to do that anymore. And kind of went down this path here. And then the baby boomers were like, well, we kind of got what we came for, so, you know. But I feel like here in the UK, we've kind of, it's got a little bit more pear-shaped for us. And I feel like it's kind of gone that way since Emperor Palpatine died. I mean, Prince Philip, like Prince Palpatine, like when he died. And they installed Jar Jar Binks as the Prime Minister. And then Jar Jar Binks was kicked out and we had Jar Jar Binks for like a hot minute. And then she left, and now I kind of feel like we've got like a revolver with a single bullet, and during like Prime Minister question time, they just kind of roll it through and just see who's gonna, And then Big Lizzie kicked the bucket. Oh my gosh! And she'd literally just thrown like the biggest celebratory funeral the colonial world has ever seen, and died of what I can only assume is a fentanyl overdose. I mean, fentanyl takes the biggest of them all, doesn't it? Whitney, Michael, although we're okay with, you know, pedophiles dying of fentanyl, that's all right. Prince, but not that Prince, because Prince Philip died not of fentanyl, but of being a chronic racist. And I sort of feel like that's kind of where we are now. And we're no closer to getting any hoverboards. And for that reason, I feel like the current future is a no from me. Maxx, gentlemen, feel free to come up and say hello afterwards and give me some unsolicited advice.